So today, speaking of an assault on the rule of law, this time, frankly, in my view, by the judiciary, you had General Flynn making arguments to an appellate court to overturn an effort by Judge Sullivan, the lower court judge handling his criminal court case, to probe whether or not he should really have his case dismissed, despite the government saying his case should be dismissed, despite obviously General Flynn agreeing that his case should be dismissed. Judge Sullivan, who Judicial Watch has significant experience with, has said, well, he wants to get behind the decision-making here, even though the two parties in the case are in agreement. And he appointed a anti-Trump judge to provide amicus arguments to him to argue the case. And as the decision, General Flynn sought an immediate appeal, an emergency appeal called a writ of mandamus before a three-judge panel. They heard the arguments today. Judge Sullivan had a lawyer. The lawyer is Beth Wilkinson. Beth Wilkinson, Judicial Watch knows because she represents the Clinton group. She represented Cheryl Mills, for instance, in our case just last week. For free, by the way. Cheryl Mills, a top aide to Hillary Clinton. She was providing all sorts of counsel for the Clinton group. She's a Clinton world lawyer representing Judge Sullivan. So you had the government and General Flynn's attorney, Sidney Powell, on one side, and on the other side, obviously, Judge Sullivan. And the judges, I don't know how the judges are going to rule. The anti-Trump judge who Sullivan appointed filed a big brief smearing General Flynn the other day that General Flynn, unless something happens, is going to have to answer. Judge Sullivan has a hearing on July 16th, and Judge Sullivan was trying to make the point through Ms. Wilkinson that he's just asking for advice, and he may actually grant the motion to dismiss. The government was making the point is that what he's trying to do is probe government decision-making on a prosecution case, and he has no right to do that under law. He can't be judge and prosecutor, and he's infringing on the executive branch's prerogatives. But the court seemed deferential to Judge Sullivan, so I don't know how it's going to go. The government had a strong argument. Of course, General Flynn is the one being victimized here. The irony, it's more likely that if General Flynn gets relief, it's because the judges are more deferential to the government than to the crime victim, in curtailing Judge Sullivan's judicial adventurism against Flynn. What's interesting is we had one of the judges was a judge on the Hillary Clinton case that we were arguing. We were trying to get the court to uphold the lower court ruling requiring Hillary Clinton and Cheryl Mills's deposition against the writ of mandamus filed by Hillary Clinton. And in that case, we got a lot of pushback from the liberal judges that didn't seem terribly interested in giving too much deference to Judge Lamberth, the lower court judge. In this case, where General Flynn and President Trump are at issue, there's all sorts of deference to the lower court judge. I don't know how the decisions are going to come down, but I just couldn't be struck by I listened to both arguments, and it was like listening to two different points of view on the role of the deference that is due to lower court judges as they try to figure out how to handle cases before them. What I think was really outrageous that was highlighted today by the court is that one of the judges asked the Justice Department, you know what, if this was so important to you, why didn't you file a writ of mandamus? And I forget what the attorney said in response, but isn't that outrageous? Because it was General Flynn who tried to vindicate his rights, and the Justice Department once again was nowhere to be found. Of course, they came in with actually a pretty strong brief, but they weren't seeking the relief. They were just supporting General Flynn. I mean, it just shows you that the Justice Department is unreliable on matters of the rule of law. They just are. As I highlighted in our case with Hillary Clinton, we're trying to get Mrs. Clinton's testimony. She files this writ of mandamus. The Justice Department, arguing on behalf of the State Department, says, well, we don't think a writ of mandamus is appropriate here because it's an extraordinary remedy. That was the point of the hearing today. The judges were saying, look, I mean, you're asking for something extraordinary here, and we just don't see the need for it necessarily. And that doesn't mean they'll rule that way, but that was the argument. And that was the Justice Department position with Hillary Clinton. But you know what they came into the court and said? They said, well, yeah, we agree with Judicial Watch, but we just want these cases to be over. We're just trying to get through them all. Poor Justice Department and State Department. Defending Hillary Clinton. And believe you me, it gets worse than that. It's not just legal positions they're taking. They are coordinating and colluding with her lawyers. This Justice Department. We see it time and time again in our cases. They're literally working together against us, you, the American people. So we'll see what happens with General Flynn. Again, the president will need to pardon General Flynn, I am convinced. Because even if Judge Sullivan ultimately does the right thing, or he's forced to do the right thing, the left will continue to hound him. Do you think a new Justice Department under different political leadership, namely the Biden administration, will let Flynn off? Or frankly, a lot of other people that haven't been targeted yet by the deep state? Of course not. And this is a direct assault on the president's ability to conduct foreign policy, the targeting of Flynn. We've discussed that. Everything he was doing was appropriate with the Russians, yet Obama was spying on him lawlessly and then sending his minions to target him. It was a seditious attack on the president's ability to conduct his constitutional duties to conduct foreign policy. So that's why he should pardon him, in addition to the injustice. So I suspect we're going to hear quickly from the appellate court, because that hearing, as I said, is on July 16th. So I say quickly because you may think a month isn't that quick, but it's actually pretty quick in the legal world. It's certainly here in the federal courts here in Washington, D.C.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.